What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with yet another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we're going to be going over the studs and the duds from the Buccaneers wild card victory 32-9 over the Philadelphia Eagles. The Buccaneers are advancing to the divisional round, take on the Detroit Lions next Sunday at 3 p.m. in Detroit. But we're going to be focusing on this game, and look, gonna come right out and say it. Like, there's a lot of studs on this list right here because the Buccaneers played arguably the best game they had all season from top to bottom, offense and defense, even special teams. They executed great and they just outplayed Philly, and the final score certainly reflects that. So great job by the Buccaneers all around. Great job by the coaching staff, everyone involved for a complete effort, and they're moving on because of it. So with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Let's go right into the studs. And first stud is going to be Baker Mayfield, 22 of 36, 337 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. No interceptions really important. Passer rating of 119.8. His day could have been even better had it not been for about 6 or 7 drops by the Buccaneers receivers. Kate Otten dropped the ball in the end zone. Mike Evans dropped the long pass there earlier in the game. There was a couple of other things. I mean, Mayfield could have had well over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in this ball game, and it speaks to how good he was. He used his legs also. I mean, he had only two attempts, but 16 yards. I believe both of them picked up first down. So he did really well. Was poised in the pocket, made the right decisions. Sometimes he would hold on to the ball a little bit, which he's done. He's going to do it throughout his career. But I thought for the most part he played a spectacular game. And like I said, his day would have been even better had it not been for the drops. Like, his completion percentage, like, doesn't look as great, but he had 7 drops, I think the Buccaneers had. So Mayfield's day was good, and it could have been even better had it not been for the Buccaneers receivers letting him down at times. But he was definitely a stud, and they need him to be. They need him to be in this moment. He was one of the X factors for this game for sure, and they needed him to rise to the occasion. And that's exactly what he did. So he is a stud for this week. We're also going to move on to another stud on offense, and that's Kate Otten. Now, Kate Otten, like I mentioned, did have the drop in the end zone. He had another drop, I believe, earlier in the game, later in the game, but he also had 8 catches for 89 yards, which led the Buccaneers. Kind of remarkable that Kate Otten had the day he did. They clearly saw something with the game plan, with the matchups, that they wanted to target Otten early and often, and they did just that. So great job by the Buccaneers of getting Otten involved, getting him mismatches that he could exploit, and good job by Otten, for executing. And like I said, his day, again, just like Mayfield's, could have been even better had he not had those 2 drops. But regardless, still a really nice day and one of the best games of Otten's career, even with those drops. So definitely a solid game from the tight end. David Moore is another guy who apparently was his birthday on Monday. So a nice little birthday present for him was a 44-yard touchdown, which opened up the scoring for Tampa Bay. The first touchdown for Tampa Bay. He had 2 catches for 66 yards, both of them pretty big splash plays. Obviously, like I said, the 44-yard touchdown. David Moore continues to be a pretty solid depth receiver for Tampa Bay. So he was a stud on Monday night. Another stud, only had 1 catch, and I don't really believe he even had many other targets. He might only had maybe 1 or 2 more targets throughout the game, but 1 catch, 56 yards, and a 56-yard touchdown. That's Trey Palmer. Trey Palmer definitely used the speed on that, broke a tackle by James Bradbury, and then just outran everybody else. So the rookie out in Nebraska really has been up and down this season, and I know there's been some criticism of Trey Palmer, but I think you have to remember that he is a 6th-round pick at the end of the day, and he wasn't expected to play as big of a role as he has on this team this year. Russell Gage's injury in training camp, him going down out for the year, it hurt, and it thrust Palmer into a role he probably wasn't quite ready for. But again, he is another guy that rose to the occasion, made a big splash play, and that pretty much put the game away at that point. So shout out to Trey Palmer there. And then we're going to group this in, I guess, to the offense. We're going to go Chase McLaughlin. Chase McLaughlin here, 3 for 3 on field goals as long as 54, 3 for 3 on extra points. This guy is easily the best signing that Jason Light made this past offseason. Fantastic. He's just been money. He's been absolute money, and I don't see any way that the Buccaneers can let this guy walk out the door this offseason. I think they got to pay him because he is completely worth it. He has been just spectacular in the biggest moments for Tampa Bay. He's come up huge, and I can't see them letting him go because he is having one heck of a season and continued that on Monday night. So we're going to switch over to the studs on the defensive side of the ball. Now, there's a couple others. Chris Godwin had a touchdown, looked pretty good, even though he wasn't as involved. Mike Evans looked okay. He had that drop. But, there's a couple others that I could put on offense, but I wanted to share the love to the defense a little bit. First, we're going to go with Jamel Dean, who was actually the Buccaneers' leading tackler with 10 total tackles. I thought Dean played one of the best games I've seen him play in a long time. I thought Jamel Dean was fantastic on Monday night for the Buccaneers, and the Bucs definitely needed it, especially with the inconsistencies that both Dean and Davis have dealt with throughout this season. I think it was important for Dean to bounce back there. So, Levante David. Only had 5 tackles, and the stat sheet won't really tell you the entire story, but Levante David was all over the field, making tackles for loss. He was all over the place, and his presence was felt. Still, like an ageless wonder, basically, Levante David is. He is an absolute stud. Another guy that, if he chooses to continue playing football, which, hey, he could choose to retire. That's definitely a possibility. I don't see a way the Buccaneers can let him leave either. So, Levante David, shout out to him. We're going to go with Kalijah Kancey, also 4 total tackles and a half sack. Levante David also had a forced fumble. Forgot to mention that. So, yeah, Kalijah Kancey had a half sack, was disruptive the entire game. Really, really played well. And I thought, again, it's a bright future for a guy like Kalijah Kancey. It really is, to step up in these moments and play well is really huge. And really, I thought Vita Vea had also a pretty nice day, had a half sack, only 2 tackles. Like I said, the box score won't tell you all this, but when you watch the game, you feel the impact, you feel the presence of those guys. And I thought really a lot of players on this Buccaneers defense just played solid, sound football. So that was a great sign to see. And then, of course, one more that I will mention will be KJ Britt, who KJ Britt was actually a big part of stopping the tush push, the Eagles tush push that they did. To be able to stop it twice now. The Buccaneers have stopped it when the Eagles has tried to go for the 2-point conversion. So KJ Britt filling in for Devin White there. Basically, KJ Britt replaced Devin White as a starter pretty much, and he's been playing great. So KJ Britt for sure is a stud. Now let's move on to a dud, and we only have one. Okay, we only have one, and that's Aaron Stinney. That's the only dud that I will say, and I'm not even gonna spend a lot of time on it because you know what, like in that performance, there's not gonna be many duds. But Aaron Stinney thought, hey, I had a rough day. It's his PFF grade, which I don't really base everything off of PFF, but he was the lowest graded Buccaneers offensive player with 40. Actually, sorry, he was not the lowest graded, but 48.6 grade. Not good. And there was times throughout the game he was being overpowered by the Eagles' interior defensive line. Mayfield took a few sacks. Aaron Stinney has been up and down, and he's a fine player. He really is a fine depth player, but at times he could be overpowered, and on Monday night at times he was. So I would say he's a dud, but really, I mean, not going to harp on it too much because there's not many duds from this game, and that is the only dud that we have. So we do not have any more duds. Even Zion McCollum, who you could say like, oh, yeah, he jumped off sides twice. I thought he played good on defense though. So a guy like Zion McCollum could be a dud, but at the same time, like he made some plays on defense, had some nice tackles, and I thought he played well. So with that being said, there's the studs and duds for this past week. A surprising, I wouldn't say it's surprising that the Bucs won. It's surprising the way they won, the total domination of the Philadelphia Eagles for sure. But I want to hear your studs and duds list. Who do you think is a stud? Who do you think is a dud? I want to hear your list. This is just my list, right? This isn't the right list. It's just mine. I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Let me know if you agree with mine, if you have anybody else in mind. Always appreciate the comments. But please, and also, if you want to go back and check out our review of the game, you can go check that out right now on Campfire Podcast YouTube channel. And also, you can listen to it anywhere. You can listen to a podcast. So be sure to check that out. But that being said, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go Bucs.